Hey, it's Drybear. It's been 2 weeks since the release of Wuthering Waves, and I wanted to talk about where the meta is right now in Wuthering Waves and what we could see in the future as more options are becoming available and as more people are testing things in the game, different team comps and different resonators. See, since the very first closed beta test for Wuthering Waves in China, CBT1, and everything that we've seen so far has been based on what we know about other gacha RPG games that are out there that are kind of focused around a very simple meta, which is honestly something you'd see in other RPG games and team-based games like MOBAs, where you focus on the character that can do the most absolute damage and then focus on supporting that character with everything that you have, creating a sort of hyper carry or mega carry situation, right? You give them all the buffs, you give them all the best gear, you give them every major scaler possible, and then the other characters are there to swap in and out to support that character's damage output, which has left some of the resonators in the dust that don't really fit in that same kind of composition, because either A, they are resonators that don't have a very fast concerto energy rotation, which means that when they get onto the field, characters like Tao Chi, they take quite a while to build up their energy before they can swap with another character to trigger the intro-outro skill. Compare that to someone like San Hua, who has a deepen bonus to basic attack damage and has one of the fastest concerto rotations in the game. She can be on the field for as little as 5 to 6 seconds, finish her rotation, max out her energy, and then trigger an outro to another character without even lingering that long. It also means we're heavily reliant on characters that have a strong buff that's granted to the next character. Characters like Mortefi are one of the best synergy characters in the game because it gives 38% heavy attack damage to the next character, and some of the best characters that we have right now are very heavy attack focused, like Jian. And like Tao Chi, that leaves characters like Yan Wu without a home. He doesn't have a deepen buff that he grants to other people. He does have a coordinated attack, but his on-field time is longer than others, and it's very hard to fit him into that meta. Even characters like Chisha, who have pretty good single target damage output, very bursty on a single target for a boss. She also has one of the highest field time requirements of any character in the game that can go upwards of 20 to sometimes even 28 seconds when you fully finish her rotation and when she's used up all of her bullets, which is not really conducive to a build where you need to swap to synergy, reactivate a buff, get back to your main target, finish your rotation in 10 to 15 seconds, and then swap out to continue again. And anyone that knows, that is a fan of the channel, knows that I love off meta. I like trying to mess around with things that don't work or things that are kind of discarded, just because it's a little more motivating for me to try and figure them out. So I've been messing around a bunch with some off meta comps, things like the one you see on screen with Chisha, Tao Chi, and Yuan Wu, and it's kind of coming into this own as a lot of people are coming to a similar conclusion that maybe we don't necessarily have to do the same team comp of a carry, a buffer, and a support character that fits into that goal of making one character do almost all of your damage and then focus on buffing that one character. Because obviously the core mechanics of the game is that you have a basic skill, a resonance skill on your E that you can activate that has some minor cooldown on it. You have your basic attacks, you can use your echo skill that allows you to deal damage or buff or do some various other things, and then when you fill up your consider meter and you swap to another character, you trigger an intro-outro skill. And that is kind of the core of the game, and the core of building your team comp is the ability to swap between characters. So what's been emerging over the last week or so is people testing out a non-synergistic type build that's focused more on maintaining uptime on resonance skills and dealing the minor amounts of damage that characters do at a fast rate. So you're swapping between your characters almost constantly, keeping the resonance skills on cooldown. So you pop resonance, you pop resonance, you pop resonance, you're popping up your echoes, you're swapping back. And of course, each character has their own concerto as you're moving through them between, but you also have the animations that can be canceled or quick swapped out of as you're switching between them, which creates a whole new opportunity for characters that get it. Now, there's one problem that we have to solve before we get really into this quick swap idea, and that is without a solid support character, you're missing out on a pretty serious amount of damage. The first one is going to be pretty obvious in that the two support characters in the game right now, Baizha and Verena, have a deepen, which is a character buff that they apply as an outro or as a transfer. So they're able to increase the damage of the next character. Verena does it to the whole party, Baizha does it to the next character. So you actually get a 15% damage bonus from having a support character on there. And this is kind of just a sacrifice you're going to have if you're not going to run a traditional trifecta style team comp. Now, the other thing you're going to miss out on that you can fix is going to be the bonus that you get from the Rejuvenating Glow Sonata set bonus. 5 out of 5 on this. If you cause a heal either on yourself or on your team, you increase the attack of the entire team for 30 seconds. This is an easy, a 15%, 20% increase for your team, depending on who's receiving the buff, and you get a bunch of damage on it, and it's basically free. However, you don't need to run a support character to get this bonus. As it's been tested, you can actually get this bonus as long as you cause any heal at all, including a heal to yourself. So you can get this bonus from a DPS character or even a brawler character by just simply equipping them with a weapon that causes a self-heal for whatever reason. Or if they're a character that has a self-heal as part of their kit, characters like Genshin or even Tao Chi that have builds of support like healing, like they heal themselves or someone else inside their kit, they can still trigger the 5-piece of rejuvenating. Now, to accomplish this, again, you can just use the Originate type weapon set that just does a self-heal on different effects, depending on what weapon you're talking about: pistol, gauntlet, sword, broadsword, or even the rectifier. They all have different ways of proccing this self-heal, but you can actually fit a character that's not normally a support into triggering this bonus and still give them the bonus there. And of course, this does include the party-wide bonus that you get from the Bellborn Giashalon, the giant turtle. This one is run in parties as a support, primarily because the echo skill bonus of increasing current character's defense is one of the few echo skills that is persistent. It stays on your character even when you swap, and it'll give all your characters for the duration a reduction on incoming damage dealt, which is super nice. It's the damage taken and damage dealt goes up. It's a party-wide buff. So you want to have this in your party, and you want to have the 5-piece rejuvenating in your party, but you don't necessarily need to put it on characters like Verena or Baizha that are meant to be healers. So now that we have that covered and we got our buffs going there, the question is, can we take advantage of our synergies, and how do we take advantage of the swapping that goes on in the game? The first thing is, if you don't know, there are a lot of things in the game that can be quick swapped to cancel but still keep them on the field. The most notable of these is going to be the echoes that have long animations. So any character or any echo that has an extended locked animation, if you start that animation and you get past the pre-fire time, the initial startup, if you quick swap, that animation will continue on the field, which allows you to essentially have 2 characters on the field at once. Some of the most popular of these are going to be the echoes. So even like Inferno Rider, he's probably one of the hardest ones to do it with, but he has a 3-hit chain combo where you go 1, 2, 3, and then when you swap out of that, as he's coming down, you can swap out. You can swap out of the Impermanence Heron as well, which allows you to go into it. You can even swap out of the Monkey after the first hit. He's the easiest one to do it with. So at the first hit, when he kicks, if you swap, he will finish the dunk on his own, which saves you a lot of uptime for those characters. But you also have characters that have long, heavy attacks like Encore. Another well-known one is going to be Encore's heavy attack. When she starts this crazy heavy attack where she starts channeling, you can swap out, which allows you to keep her on field and get that other character in so you can start attacking. She will stay on the field and start dealing damage as well, which means that you can constantly swap between your characters as you go through and focus on primarily just keeping your resonance abilities down, which, by the way, almost every resonance ability in the game will give you a certain amount of concerto energy, which means that you're building up those intro outros every time you swap between characters, and it remembers the amount of energy that you have as well. So when we normally approach a carry team that focuses on DPS, your main characters are characters like Danjin or like Rover Havoc or like Jiyan or Calcharo or even Encore that focus on doing the most amount of damage possible, and then you get a character that buffs them and a character that heals and buffs as well. However, with this strategy, you're looking to get a character that may have a little bit longer uptime, someone like Jianshin or even like Yan Wu that has that kind of focus. Give them a self-healing weapon that allows them to trigger that bonus. You can even run Yang Yang for the vortex to group up enemies if you're having trouble with AoE, and then trigger that bonus, and then get 2 characters that have a small to moderate length on the field that have decent resonance skills. Great options for this are even Encore, because the majority of Encore's damage does actually come during her ultimate, her Resonance Liberation. So when you have Encore out on the field, most of her damage comes from that window where she has her ultimate active. The same goes for Calcharo, who has that same kind of damage profile. So you can actually have Encore, Calcharo, and like Genshin or Yang Yang if you want to put those in there, and then just swap between the two using your Resonance keep all the resonance cooldown rotating through all of them, put up echoes that actually benefit from that quick swap as well, and then you just have a moderate amount of support and healing. And one of the assumptions that we had going into the very early stages of Wuthering Waves was that you actually needed a healer in every single comp because of the damage that you're taking. But because we have perfect dodges, we have parries, we have counters, and we have special guard mechanics like Tao Chi or Genshin that can actually block damage completely, and when they do their parry attack, you can actually end up avoiding a lot of the damage in the game. Some encounters will have chip damage that you'll deal with, which you can either use potions for or just heal in between runs. But on top of that, the healing is proving to be a little less necessary than we originally thought. Now, this also frees you up to use some of the less popular characters right now, like I said, like Tao Chi or like Yan Wu, or even like Alto with an arrow damage bonus. I have an arrow team that I've been using where it takes full advantage of the arrow bonus. So Yang Yang is the support, Alto is the synergy, sub DPS, and primary DPS is Genshin, though you could definitely do Jiyan if you wanted this as well, would just be even better on that front. But I think the big thing to focus on here is that instead of having this very linear fixed rotation of going support into synergy into your DPS, you now have the opportunity to use more minor deepen bonuses to buff specific characters. So Sanhua buffs basic attack damage for the next character, Mortefi buffs heavy attack damage for the next character, Baizha and Verena give damage to the next character or all characters in general, but you can also get some bonus Havoc damage on the next character with Danjin. Some people have running Danjin as a swap for Havoc Rover, and you can even run a DPS swap support in place with a Danjin and a Rover Havoc that gives you a really nice swap. We can swap between the two and then get the support in there for the extra bonus buff and maybe even support some damage deepens on that and rotate through. So there's a lot of really cool things that you can do, or even if you're running Genshin as a quick swap support, she buffs resonance liberation damage. So you could run like a Calcharo and an Encore with Genshin as a support, which allows you to do a swap to Calcharo with the liberation damage bonus from Genshin, then do Calcharo's ultimate back to Genshin, then build your outro and then go straight into Encore, use her ultimate, swap back to Genshin, and that way you're doing almost this intermediate fork build where you're using the resonance liberation bonus damage from Genshin to buff characters that primarily do damage during their ultimate to create a completely different vibe. Now, this does put more pressure on you to dodge correctly and parry correctly, but it's awesome to see more experimentation in how the game is played and potentially even bringing some of the characters that currently don't get a lot of focus in the game to the spotlight to see what it is that they can pull off. So if we break the chains of doing a pure carry comp with one character doing all the damage, let me know what your comp experimentations are yielding in your game as well. What resonators are coming to the forefront that open up new opportunities when you start breaking around the combination of how you use them. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below. Leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people. And don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.